Here are some tips and techniques that I've used to draw this dog in colored pencil. The description box below contains the listing of materials that I've used. I usually start off coloring the eye first. It's just something I always do. I use like a dark brown and a dark blue, and I blend those together to create the pupil, the black parts of the eye, and then I start layering different colors in the eye, starting off with light pressure and then building up to harder, firmer pressure once I have all the layers of colors, and then I'll use like a white to blend it all together and then to add some shine, and then I go back in with a darker pencil. Even towards the end I might use black to get the coloring darker in certain spots. I do have a tutorial on how to draw a dog's eye, and I can link that below as well. I build the color of the fur around the eyes because the hair around the dog's eyes is white. I just kind of start with building up the shadows, so the dark areas that I see in the picture, my reference photo, I start building up the dark colors. I use like a dark brown color, and then just looking at the shapes that it's creating, I kind of mark out those spots, and then I eventually build some different tones and shading to that, so it's not just black and white. I'll kind of gradiate the coloring and the shading. Moving on to the brown part of the fur, I lay down a lighter base color with light pressure, and then I slowly build up the fur using a lot of different shades of brown. I use mostly burnt siennas and brown ochres and a few other colors. I used a lot of different colors, and it's best to use a lot of different colors because the layering really builds depth and adds to the realism. And it's also best to use short strokes because this dog has short fur, so naturally short strokes representing the fur. And for the ears, the fur is very short and smooth, so I use the sides of my pencil a lot for the shading and then add some shorter strokes on top. So this dog has a lot of white fur, and if you don't know already, it's very hard to get really sharp, fine details in white to stand out once you've already laid down color on your paper. So one tip I'd use is electric eraser, just to pull out fine strokes, and then just go back in with another color, so like the brown fur color, and with the sharp pencil, and then just kind of draw strokes in between the whites that you pulled out to make it more finer, more of a fine point white stroke. And then another tip that I saw watching other YouTubers is using an art knife, an X-acto knife, and just scraping out little sharp fine details like that. And it comes in really handy to bring back the white in a very fine detail like that. Next, I start working on the nose, so I'm building up color using kind of similar technique with the eyes, where I'm using like a dark blue and a brown, mixing them together to build up the different shades and colors, and then using like a white pencil or a gray to build up the shine. And the nose of a dog is very textured, so I go in with making white dots and then go back in with a sharp black pencil to make little dimples in the nose around the white areas. And then just adding the little fur details, so the under color of the black areas around the snout, and also some brown areas around the snout, and just shading it lightly, and then building up layers of that, and then adding little furs around the nose with a very sharp black pencil, and then going back with the art knife and scraping out the white furs as well. Then just going around and shading the nose, because it is white fur. It's not gonna just all be white, so you're still gonna use a lot of different shades of gray and light browns to shade around the nose, and the lip areas are darker. You may notice on every dog, most dogs, their lip can have like a black edge to it. So I draw a black edge and then the different shadows, which is just always looking at your reference photo and kind of seeing where the shadows fall and then adding the different strokes to that. So just, talking again about the white fur, and then also the fur under the dog's neck is a little bit longer fur, so my strokes are changing to a little bit longer strokes. So I'm putting a lot of shadows in there. I'm using light blues and light grays, I'm actually using both warm grays, which is like a more brownish tone, and then also cool grays, which is a more bluish tone, just depending on what part of the fur and where the light is hitting. I just use a whole mixture of different shades. And then working onto the collar, which can be a little bit frustrating, but kind of fun too. Just doing a base layer of red, and then adding a little bit, more pressure as I add more colors and more layers. And I'm also using, I don't remember the exact colors I used, but there's kind of like a purplish red. I pretty much pulled out all the reddish colors in the set of Luminance pencils that I use, and then just mixing them up. There's some orangey reds in there that I use for more of the areas that are in lighter, in more light, and then some more brownish reds in areas that are darker. And it is an old, not a brand new collar, so there's some dirt probably on there that I just added. And then I work on the metal pieces, which was actually kind of fun, using a lot of different grays and cool grays. So lightly building up the different layers of color, and the dark spots, there's like dark streaks with metal. There's like a lot of dark shadows that are long line strokes, and reflections. So that's kind of fun. And then just of course leaving the most highlighted area white, and then just going back in with like a light gray color or white to just blend everything all together. And it really creates a realistic shine when you properly lay out the colors. And then you'll notice too with metal, the edges or the bottom of things usually has like a highlight. So you'll notice on the metal piece, on the collar, that, I don't know what you call that, the buckle, yeah, has like a white edge to it, but that's just like a reflective edge. And then usually like a darker spot right after the white edge. So just kind of, once again, looking at your reference photo, to just see how everything's laid out. And then I continued on to the rest of the fur, just always kind of paying attention to the different directions of the fur, as where how you're gonna make your strokes, and just building up a lot of different colors and layers and shadow, and then going back and touching up. And I do apologize, there was a lot of times that I forgot to lock the exposure on the camera, so the lighting looks like it's flickering, but it's just because it's adjusting. Every time my hand comes into the picture, it's changing the lighting a lot, so sorry about that. And with the background, it's out of focus. So I'm using a lot of different colors and just building up colors and blending the different shapes into each other. And then I used a Lisa Odorless Paint Thinner and a fan brush, and then just kind of dabbed the brush all over to kind of blend all the colors together, and just it's just a faster process for me, and then the results look really good. So here I'm just showing you the art knife technique where I'm scraping out more fur or white fur on there out of the picture. And then also just showing you my shading technique, adding details around the nose, like spots that I kind of noticed. I thought I was done with this piece, and then I looked closer at the picture, the reference photo, and saw there's a lot more little spots and things around the nose, and so I added that, and it really builds up more realism and character. So I use like a gray color to build up the spots and shadows, and then I go with a darker gray to add more shadow within the shadows, to make it more detailed, and that just really brings out more realistic character, I believe. And it's always good to kind of save the fine details for the end, so here I'm adding like little furs. Well, that's the final piece. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching.